Hello everyone and welcome to a special episode of Generation Next or Console Crew, whatever we want to be calling it, because it is the first anniversary of the release of the PlayStation 5. So to talk about the console's first year, I am joined by Xbox expert Jordan Romain.
Yo.
And PlayStation Pro Tamoor Hussain.
Absolutely throbbing to talk about
You've used that one before.
PlayStation.
He's hoping people have forgotten.
Gushing to talk about.
You've used that one
You've
too.
used that one.
Sweating to talk about.
That's fine, it just sounds like you've got some kind of...
I'm pitching a tent here, lads.
No, you used that literally last week. So we've all had consoles for about a year now. Which version of the PlayStation 5 does everyone have? I have the disc one. Tam?
Yeah, I've got the disc one.
And Jordan?
Disc, yeah.
So all discs. Do you find yourself actually using discs? I have genuinely the only disc I've ever put into my PlayStation 5 is the Lord of the Rings UHD 4K edition.
Yeah, I have a copy of Demolition Man up in there. Let me tell you that. It's all up in them guts.
I say no because I have the Series X, so when I'm watching stuff, I usually am putting discs into that. I don't even know if the disc drive works. I could have one of the broken versions where the disc drive doesn't work. You just would never know. We'll never know.
How has it changed gaming for you? Because obviously it had all of these, just like the Xbox, it had all these big shiny new features like increased load speed, graphics, quality of life updates, things like 3D audio. What has been the standout thing that you've noticed throughout a year of use on the PS5?
I think like the main thing for me is something that we'll come to eventually is it feels like a less an experience that has less friction points than the PS4. I don't think the PS4 had a lot, but I think there's some smart changes that have happened for the PlayStation 5 that have made jumping in and out much quicker and much easier. I still don't think it's perfect. There are various kind of points that I get caught up on when I'm playing games, and there's things that I wish I had, many of which only I'm aware of because they're on other consoles or they're things that they're issues that I run up into. But overall, I find it to be quite a easy experience in kind of like jumping in, getting into a game, playing for a while, jumping out. And I think the main thing that defines the PlayStation 5 is it's got games. It's got like unique games that you can't ignore. And that's like the biggest strength of that platform, without a doubt. It is the main draw to it.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about games very shortly because obviously it's been a hell of a year. But I mean, Jordan, I don't know about you, but I think the load times, and obviously on the Series X too, load times are fantastic, and it's genuinely stopping me doom scroll. But I think the thing that I wasn't expecting to love as much as I do has been 3D audio, which is kind of, especially when you're playing a game that really takes advantage of it, things like Returnal, Astro. It's been genuinely like amazing, some of the audio work, and it's kind of audio seems to be the much maligned, no one ever really thinks about it unless it's really, really bad, and it just feels like on PS5 it's kind of been more of a standout edition for me, because like I said, graphics are always going to get better, load times are always going to get better, but stuff like audio really stands out. Jordan, what's been your kind of favorite thing?
I think I'm just gonna pretty much just echo you, Lucy. Like the audio has really stood out to me, the 3D audio especially, and just how the DualSense controller itself utilizes audio like a bit better and incorporates it. Like, just as a quick example, like Deathloop, every time Juliana like cuts in and she uses the DualSense microphone to talk to you as opposed to like your TV speakers, it feels more like an intrusion on my life whenever it happens. I'm like, oh, this is a very nice way of making me feel more akin to what Colt is feeling, where it's like, oh, there's this voice that keeps jumping in and it frightens me and unnerves me every time that she does. And so they've just used audio in really cool ways, and the way that they sometimes tie that audio to the different haptic feedback and things going on with the DualSense and the vibration and everything. It's just awesome. It doesn't always work. I don't use it whenever I'm playing a shooter on PlayStation 5, but like for the most part, like all the new features that they've added with this new generation have just been wonderful.
I think it's the first gimmick, the DualSense is the first gimmick-based controller that Sony have successfully pulled off. Like, not gimmick in the traditional sense, where it's like they tried with the 6-axis, that was hot trash. Then they went back to like just the standard DualSense stuff, the DualShock stuff, which was way better. And the features on there are kind of a gimmick by definition, like the speaker and like the always listening and always recording, that kind of thing, and the haptic feedback or whatever it is called in this. But it actually works, and it's not intrusive, and it's not something. And it's funny because they didn't make a big deal out of it. They just kind of put it in there, and they were like, yeah, it's got this stuff and it works. It wasn't like the 6-axis motion stuff where they were like, we are all about this. And I think I really appreciate it because of that way more. The speaker and the microphone just being on the controller has been massive. It's been genuinely helpful for us in a few situations where we were without headsets because we were moving around, and having that as a clutch replacement was really good.
Yeah.
It has backfired on a number of games. But
it records
remember Destruction
you.
All-Stars when like people could hear other people trash talking like at all times, and there was no way to turn it off at the start?
And it records you when you're getting a trophy, because I know Andy Cortez did a great one he was doing one on Demon Souls, and it's just him kind of screaming around because he gets the trophy.
Yeah, it records you. It's always recording you unless you mute it. So like I have multiple Mass Effect moments that I've had not been able to post because halfway through a funny moment I've accidentally, I don't know, farted in a room, and you're like, oh, you can hear that shit. That's too loud.
You gotta say, I gotta hope it's not shit, but you could say vaped, but I'm glad you went for the
I'm telling you the truth.
Telling it like it is. Now, my experience with the DualSense, I really enjoy it. I think, like I said, in games where it's fully optimized, when there's like little pitter patter of rain and stuff, it's very, very nice. However, I will say that I've turned the vibration and the controllers down because this is just me, but I have really bad repetitive strain injury in my wrists, and so for an extended use, sometimes it can just be a little bit overwhelming, so I have turned it down. And in shooters, it's just not, I don't want to meet resistance. Like in Deathloop, obviously it's kind of a mechanic. If you have like this janky gun, it can jam and stuff, but then I was like, no, I'm gonna turn that off. But the mic in the DualSense is really cool. A feature, one of my favorite features in the PS5 that not many people seem to know about or use. It's an accessibility feature, and it's fantastic that it's there, but it needs a lot of work, which is the text to speech. The speech to text, sorry. So you can turn on, in your party chat, you can turn on speech to text, and
it's like talking to Siri or something.
Some
like
of
that.
it, they're garbled stuff. I mean, one of the ones was my favorite, which was Big Uncle's Big Nightmare. Like, just absolutely random stuff. But I will say, there's other cool things like, a friend of ours, Simon, was playing Bloodborne for the first time, and we were in a party, and he was sharing his gameplay, and I could just pin it, I could pip it. So it could just be like in a small corner. I didn't have to watch the whole thing. So I was playing Mass Effect or something at the same time. And I could just be talking to him, watching him play. And then if it was a pivotal moment, I could just increase the size of his screen. And so that's really, really cool. I think what they've been doing with parties. Because originally, the original layout was pretty bad.
We're this close to getting snapback. And Sony being like, just take that functionality and put it on Netflix or YouTube, and it would be a game changer, literally speaking, for people who just, like us, who need to be doing 700 different things at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to be able to watch a YouTube video while grinding it out on some RPG.
Yeah, I mean, I really, really hope so. So the other thing that Sony's massively changed over the last year is storage. So it was always more straightforward to increase storage. It seemed on Xbox, obviously they had the little expansion cards. With PlayStation, it was a little bit funnier. You could put PS5 games on your... Oh no, you couldn't put... Was it you couldn't put PS5 games on the external storage first, and then you could...
No.
But you can't play them off external storage, and so if you want to increase, because actually that terabyte doesn't go very far because of the size of the OS is quite big. Storage, I would say, would be my main issue over the last year. I'm constantly having to delete games, move games, re-download them. It's kind of a bit frustrating, whereas Xbox is just like, yeah, plug it in.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Storage
okay.
and the no variation of Xbox's smart delivery at launch was rough for PlayStation 5. I'm like, no, I don't want the PS4 version of Spider-Man to download on this game. I want the PS5 version.
Yeah.
It's like, why is this so hard?
I mean, it's good. It's good that they have updated all that stuff now.
Yes.
It's way easier to figure out which version of a game you're playing. The other thing that I would like to see change is we could talk about that. We could talk about like stuff we probably want to see change later, but it's like the main screen. Like you don't have themes anymore, but you do have pictures from each game, and some of them they've gone really overboard, and it's like nice music and stuff, and some is just like plain
Nothing.
That's fine. In terms of other peripherals, though, I have the headset and the camera, and I love the headset even though I have a tiny head, so it makes me look ridiculous. The one thing I'll say is that I don't use the camera.
Unnecessary cell phone.
Look,
I know. Like no one was gonna bring it up, Lucy. Like,
I want to get in front of it because it does look really stupid on my tiny head. However, it is really comfortable and it feels great. The one thing I will say is that I don't use the camera for anything.
I forgot I have one.
I also forgot I had one until I found it when I was moving, and I was like, oh shit.
The peripherals on the PlayStation are like also underappreciated GOAT is the charging stand. Which
That's the best
like
thing.
that thing is really good. Like I love it. I've had charging stands in the past and they all eventually break or are crap in some degree. This is like an official Sony one and it's been a lifesaver. You can put 2 controllers I think on it or 3. I can't remember. I think it's 2. And like I've not needed to plug in my controller into the PS5 even once in the entire year that I've owned it.
That's the thing though. I mean, actually, if we're kind of on battery life, I will say the DualSense battery life is not the best. It sucks. I mean, especially, I think the gold standard for controller battery life, this, I'm not even saying this gen, because Switch was technically like last gen, but the Pro controller on the Switch can just go forever, whereas the DualSense is like 4 or 5 hours for me at this point, depending on heavy usage, and so, I don't know. It could be better. I think I was way warmer on DualSense at the beginning of using it, but after using it for so long, I still like it as a controller, but I think my heart still belongs to the Elite Series 2.
Downside with this DualSense is white controller. Boy, if you ever look at that controller, you're like, I am the dirtiest.
As a white controller with little symbols on it.
Yeah, it's just like,
ridges,
oh great.
So.
Just the hand grime in this is unreal.
Before we move on to games, one thing I did want to ask is, because there was a lot of people weren't sure about how the PS5 would look, if it would fit into people's entertainment centers, because obviously it's not just, a regular box. It's, I don't know, it looks like a fancy opera house.
What?
Everyone knows it looks like Seto Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay?
Yep.
It does look like the I'm getting Sydney Opera House meets the one up in the Sage up in Newcastle.
Wait, are you looking at it vertical or horizontal?
I've got it horizontal at the moment.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes a bit more sense.
Yeah, so now
It
I've got
does.
it for
It
a
does
year.
also look like a building in Dubai, which you'd be like, why? Why have you done this?
Yeah, I mean, so it's obviously quite different to a normal console. Are you used to it? Are we liking the design now? Or is it still kind of I'll hide it behind my TV so I don't have to look at it? I can see yours, Tam.
Mine's right there, proudly. I'm not ashamed to be a gamer, and anyone who comes into this room will see that I will put any weird-looking device in public display. Because on the other side of that is my Xbox, which I've actually packed away so you can't see it. But
Wow.
like big obelisk just hanging out there. I'm like, yes, these do define my identity. So
This is me.
This is me. I always like the PlayStation 5 the way it looks. It's striking, it's different. And it is like a conversation starter, even though no one has been in this room other than me in the last 2 years.
Okay, I was about to say, I'm like, who's coming into your room? And this is the conversation
It's a conversation starter I have with myself, okay? But it
Nice
is,
PS5 you've got
yeah,
there.
thank you. It's very strangely shaped, don't you think? Yes, I do. I do like it, and I like the way it. I think I like it as a contrast to the Xbox. It feels like a nice kind of like offset of what Microsoft are doing, very slick. Like we want this to fade away, kind of, and it very much does do that. And it's also when you look at it, you're like, yeah, it looks powerful. And the PlayStation 5 is like, I am a gaming machine.
I'm here.
I am here. I am a gaming machine, and I will challenge you with my blue eyes white dragon if you're not careful. But I will say, extremely worrying to transport without the original box.
If you don't keep the original box, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, that thing, like you can't just pop that into a normal box because it will like, you'll snap the top of it unless you like remove the actual faceplates. It's
Don't
not
say
ideal.
that. I was shamed into throwing away the boxes for my consoles.
This is the problem. You were shamed by people on Twitter hating on boxes. I kept my box and I was like, oh, do I have my box? I found my box. Now I feel comfortable at transporting that bad boy to my new apartment.
I guess I live here forever now.
Yeah. Wait, Jordan, how are you feeling about the aesthetics?
I mean, half of my PS5 is hidden behind my TV, and the other half is hidden behind the Series X. So I can't really
that
it.
says everything.
What kind of chaotic setup have you got here?
Yeah, can we get a picture
Look,
for
I
the
do
edit,
not
please?
have like that much room in my room. Evan, I'll send you a picture of my setup so that the viewers know what I'm talking about. But it is like one of those funny things where the PS5 used to be the odd man out as the only like white console I had, and then I upgraded my Switch to the Switch OLED, and now my Series X looks like it doesn't belong. I'm like, damn, I have one black console. I kind of wish I had a Series S so that they would all match.
Would all match. Yeah, mine, I don't know. I literally got an entertainment unit yesterday. I'm still not used to seeing it. It looks okay. It looks okay. I think I'm used to it now. But let's talk about the games. We've been going for a while. Let's talk about the games. So we did an episode of Console Crew / Gen Next about the first year of the Xbox Series S and X, and we kind of all agreed that the exclusives were pretty much the thing that let it down. It had some great ones, but it didn't necessarily have like huge system sellers, big famous Xbox first party, and like games that are synonymous with Xbox. So PlayStation, I will say, for my money, came out of the gate with way more bangers. You know,
it is that scene of Danny DeVito saying, "So I started blasting."
Yeah, so I started blasting.
That is how Sony came into this generation.
I will say, launching PS5 with Demon Souls, Miles Morales, and Astro's Playroom was like
Bugsnax. Was Bugsnax launch or was
Bugsnax
close
was
enough?
early. Yeah,
It was the first month of PS Plus. It had it.
It was a solid like first couple of weeks for PlayStation.
And then throughout the year, we've had things like Returnal, Destruction All-Stars, Remake Integrate for Final Fantasy VII, Chicory, is that console exclusive, Ratchet & Clank, Ghost of Tsushima, Director's Cut, Death Stranding, Director's Cut, Kana, Jet the Far Shore, F.I.S.T, and 10 out of 10 GameSpot.com, Deathloop. So it's been a pretty great year, I would say.
It has been real good, and like Jordan said, Demon Souls to start with is like that's a banger to start with. Not only like one of the most respected games in a long time, a genre starter even, but also one of the most sought after remakes of all time. Like people were desperate for that. So for them to announce it and then be like, it's going to be a PlayStation 5 launch title, that is like, I think that's got to be like one of the best launch titles ever. Yeah. The only way Microsoft could have competed is if they had a Halo, or if they had a big first party title, and they just didn't. Like they had nothing, which is I mean, they had plenty of. They had Yakuza Like a Dragon, which cannot be understated how important that was, because that game was just carrying Microsoft, like Kasuga Ichiban just with Phil Spencer on his back. Like, I'm gonna carry you through this, bro, and he did it. Yeah. He did it.
What was everyone's kind of standout PS5 gaming experience from the year?
I think for me it is probably Demon Souls, and playing that intensely for a day to review it in one day.
I still can't believe you did that in a day. That's wild.
But like, I think Miles Morales was also just like Jordan reviewed it, and I remember just being fully absorbed by that game. Like, incredible game.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And also,
like-
what like a nice move on PlayStation's part to be like, hey, we're gonna try to do something this generation where it's like it's a sequel to something we've done, but it's more like a 7 to 10 hour almost like DLC expansion because it's using virtually the same sort of like assets and stuff like that from original game. I'm like, this is smart. You got Insomniac is just like carrying PlayStation over the next couple of years, like.
Yeah, and then obviously we're gonna have another Spider-Man game and Wolverine, and so they're also kind of building momentum, I think, off of those releases. I think for my money, I loved Demon's Souls. Demon's Souls just looked and felt so impressive. I remember just walking around that kind of starting area and just drudging through like swamp water, or at least puddles with kind of pieces of greenery, and I was like, oh my god, look at like in the opposite of what happened with Spider-Man. I was like, oh my god, look at the puddles, guys. Look at the puddles.
Here are the puddles you wanted.
Everywhere.
Yeah. But I think in terms of things like, I really liked going back to Ghost of Tsushima and seeing how they'd, and to a lesser extent, like Death Stranding too, is like taking PS4 games and bringing them up to PS5. But I think Astros was like, yes, it's kind of gimmicky. It is to show off what the console can do, but I also think it was so full of heart and just all of the little PlayStation memories in it and all the little Easter eggs. It was so cute. I really enjoyed Astros.
Good game. Underrated game.
And
I was gonna say, Astros is definitely like my first standout moment on PlayStation 5, because like you said, it was very gimmicky, but it was one of those like going into the console, I'm like, okay, they've talked about the DualSense, some people have like tried it already, I'm still not quite sure what this controller is supposed to add to gameplay. And then Astro's Playroom is like, this is what this controller can do, and I'm like, I am sold 100%. I love what this controller can do and how it adds to the gaming experience.
Also, like worth saying, like they did update some older games to be a little more beautiful, beautiness. They update the beautiness on like God of War is one I jumped back into, and I was like, this is a nice looking game.
So quickly it loads.
And also it loads Bloodborne fractionally quicker. And you know I'm all about that life.
Are you? You like Bloodborne?
Maybe.
No, the one thing I'll say as well is that I forgot. It doesn't matter. I was just gonna say that like if Astros was your first kind of experience of like learning the DualSense, that's amazing. It felt even better if you went and played, I think Assassin's Creed was a launch title or came out very, very close to launch. If you played that where there was no DualSense stuff at all, and then you played Astros, you were like, oh, this is what it could be like. This is a whole new world.
This is the future.
Wow, Jordan, thank you for teeing me up with that segue. But like the future, we already know that we're getting Horizon, Ghostwire Tokyo, God of War, GT7, Pragmata, and rumblings about stuff like Final Fantasy 16. There's also, we're going to be getting Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2. So even though there's not like there's a few amazing games in that lineup that I'm excited to see more of. What are the things that you're excited about the future of PS5 in its second year?
In its second year.
What is Blue Point doing? What is Blue Point doing?
Freshly bought, freshly acquired Blue Point Games.
There has been rumors of circulating for a long time about a Metal Gear Solid thing happening, perhaps. I don't know.
And you think they've been working on it long enough that it's a second year thing?
Imagine
for
PlayStation? if they just remade the first Metal Gear Solid. I would explode.
Glad you said explode. I didn't know where you were gonna go with that. Yeah, I think games wise, there's a lot to look forward to. But also, I think there's also opportunities for change. Quick resume is a feature that we were talking about when we did the Xbox episode. Like, quick resume is such a game changer for chaotic people like me, who'd like to kind of dip in and out and stuff. And the fact that there isn't like any kind of quick resume type functionality on the PS5 does kind of suck. And
I love that they try to hide it, where it's like, would you like to switch from this game to this game? I'm like, this is not actually switching from one game to the other. But
also, it was, there was that big problem with Returnal where the console would update overnight and you would lose progress. Whereas, like I said, there was a power thing there was a power outage at my place, and my Xbox was like, yo, I got you, we're fine.
I love in my mind, I imagine it as the Xbox holding its breath. Like,
Yeah, just...
and then when you turn it back on, the next time it's like, I did it.
There have been nice changes. They kind of had a big update where they changed things like that command bar at the bottom, and they sort of streamlined. I think friends could still use a little work, and I know they tried to make player profiles more of a thing, but I can honestly say that I never look at other people's profiles or trophies or anything.
It has been a year, and I am still holding the stupid PlayStation button to try to turn off my console. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why? Why did you make this choice? I would love it if they just added, like... Or maybe they do. Is there a setting where you can change it, where you hold the button to turn it off instead of just pressing it and then scrolling over?
No, there isn't. And that's what I was going to say. How have they done this? I do not understand how we've reached a year into this, and everyone learned to hold the power button down, or PlayStation button down, to bring up the power off every single... console.
And Xbox does it too, so it's like just muscle
Switch
memory at this point.
Switch. I think the DS does it. The 3DS does it. Like, everything does it, and they went the other way where they were like, no, if you hold this down, we're just going to give you a menu, and then you have to... Why, Sony? I'm sure you've got a reason, but I don't like it.
They might not have a reason, and it's Sony. They don't need to explain themselves to the likes of us. The one thing I will say is that they are clearly listening to feedback, because they made huge changes to things like trophies, because originally trophies were horizontal and it was so weird to try and scroll through a list. Then they changed it to be vertical. They've also added trophy tracking, which sometimes I get weirdly hyperfixated on trophies, and I'm like, I'm gonna platinum this game, and just the fact that I can pin stuff to the side and just like knock out all the different trophies that I want to get is really, really good. So I'm intrigued to see if they continue to improve incrementally things like that. I think it's been an exceptionally strong year. I mean, you can tell it's an exceptionally strong year because they're still so difficult to buy, both PlayStation and Xbox. So lads, first year of PS5. Let's get your overall thoughts. Jordan, I'll come to you.
Okay, relating this to what I said at the end of the Xbox conversation, where I was like, I kind of have an idea of what Xbox is doing, but I have no idea like where they're going with this. With PlayStation, I have like an idea based on their first year where they're going with this. They both sold me the ticket and convinced me to actually get on the plane to go where they want to go, where I'm like, okay, they have sequels to a lot of their traditional games, like God of War, Horizon, Spider-Man, stuff like that, but they also have these more experimental things where like, oh, we're gonna be like the big budget movie people still, like Xbox can have its whole subscription thing. They're the Netflix that you watch and binge every day. You're going to the movies, but we're gonna have a wider diversity of movies, both in terms of like not just white straight male main characters, because we're getting things like Deathloop and Miles Morales and Chicory, where it's like a wider variety of protagonists, Returnal, Kena, Bridge of Spirits, but also just like games that I would not have ever expected PlayStation to have before. Games like Returnal and Kena, where I'm like, oh, these are really cool, and they're almost like big budget indie films, if for lack of a better term. And I'm like, and I like this direction that PlayStation has established, where it's like, we're still doing the thing that we love doing, but we're also going to take you on this journey to explore types of quote-unquote film video games that you did not get on PS4. So like I love this first year, and I cannot wait to see what they have in store for year two.
Yeah, I mean, like, just like with the Xbox, like I love these consoles. Like, I love the PlayStation 5, and I'm having such a good time playing games on it. And Sony as a company is very exciting for everything that Jordan mentioned there. I think the potential that they also have, they're making big reaches, and they're making us aware of the fact that they know some of the things that we want, and they started doing that when they, showed off Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, they're starting to dip into the, like, this is a, fantasy announcement, fantasy project vibe kind of thing with that, and then Demon Souls. And I think whether or not it happens, I'm now more inclined to believe that Sony will do something crazy, like announce that they have acquired Metal Gear Solid, or they have built some sort of relationship where they can make the next one, or something like as wild as we're bringing Siphon Filter back, or we're doing XYZ thing. Like it could be anything, but like Sony is at a place right now where it feels like they could make those big jumps, or big like kind of high promotion or a kind of like high buzz plays, and that is incredibly exciting. I think the future of PlayStation is kind of unknowable because of that, and that's exciting. You can never tell what Sony's going to do. Like, we never expected a Wolverine game, and that's there it is. Like they've done it, and they've earned
I'm excited
that.
for it.
Yeah, exactly. We never expected Returnal. We never expected a lot of the games that have defined the first year, and we know some of the things coming, like Horizon, and from this point on I feel like they could make some massive swings, and that's exciting.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll always have all the latest. That was the first year of PS5. We also have a companion video where we talk about kind of the first year of the Xbox Series S and X. It's up on the channel. For more, make sure to like this video and subscribe to GameSpot. I'm on Twitter at LooseJamesGames. Jordan?
You can find me on Twitter at JMRame.
And Tam?
You can find me at Tamoor.
Thank you so much for watching. Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.